So today's task is to find the time that taken to require the time taken to solve a puzzle, like a random puzzle. We give it as an input. And so this is the code. So in this random puzzle method, we give an input like this. We give this input. So this parameter n equals to 17. N equals to 17 means, like, when we give an input, we will be filling few boxes, few squares. So that filled squares or filled letters or digits should be 17. So that the input we given the input we give should consist of 17 digits. So what we are doing is, in this method we are randomly constructing a puzzle, like if we give this grid 2 as an input. So what we are doing is we are we are randomly solving the puzzle. And so we are randomly solving, like we are randomly assigning the digits in that empty spaces, and we are solving the puzzle. So first we are taking values as a dictionary. For each square in this dictionary, key we are taking as a squares, like from a1, a2, a3. And digits is that we are assigning the values to that square from 1 to 9. So in values dictionary, the key is the squares like a1, a2, and digits is a values. It's a list of from 1 to 9. So and here we are iterating to the squares. So for s in shuffled of squares, so this shuffle method, like we are sending the squares, all the squares from a1 to a9, from a1 to i1, like from a to I, and from 1 to 9. So those, like this shuffle method, it returns like we'll be sending with the particular input sequence. So that while after in this method that sequence is shuffled, like from like if it is in the form of 1 2 3 4 5 6, then the numbers will be shuffled and the sequence of list will be returning. So we are shuffling the squares and we are iterating to that list. And if and after iterating to for loop, like we are checking if not assign of, we are calling this assign method value. To that assign method, we are sending the parameters as values and a dictionary, and s is a square, and random dot choice of values of list, values of s. That is, this random dot choice, it selects a single, from the list, it selects in a randomly, it selects a number or an letter, and it sends, like the input is selected like that from the values of s. Is that for in that values dictionary, like we'll be having for a1, we'll be having two or three lists. So it randomly selects one list, and it will be sent to that input, sent to the method input. So if the output is false, then if not of false, if it is true, then the if loop is it breaks, it enters into the if loop, and the break statement executes, it comes out of the for loop. So if loop is not true, then we are taking a ds variable. So for s in squares, like this time the squares are not shuffled. So for s in squares, we are iterating through squares. And if length of values of s, like for each key we are calculating the length, like for each key we are calculating the length of values of that key. So if the length is double equals to 1, then we are assigning that list, or like the value of that particular key to the ds variable. And then we are checking whether the length of ds variable is greater than or equals to n, and length of set of ds is greater than or equals to 8. That is, see, in this ds variable we are assigning the list of each key, like for s in squares. So if suppose if we take s as an a1 square, so we are taking whether a1 has a one list or not. Like for a1 we can write, we have two or three columns as a values, one row and one column as a value. So not only one, sorry, not one row one column, like we'll be having possibilities. like the values for a1, like we'll be having pairs, units, and those all. So if length of values is double equals to 1, like if it has only one digit, then we are putting it into, like if it only has one list, we are assigning it to ds value. So now what we are checking, we are checking the number of elements in the ds variable. So if the number of elements in ds variable is greater than or equals to 17, and the set of ds is that we are checking for unique numbers. So if like in ds we have all unique numbers and those are greater than or equals to 8, then we are replacing returning empty string if length of values is equals to 1, else we are returning dot. So if this if like after this for loop, we are returning return random puzzle of n, like give up, and like if break statement is, if statement is executed, like if it is satisfied and the break statement is executed, then again we are calling this random puzzle, again we are constructing a new puzzle and we are checking. So this is this code. And one more, and like as I said earlier, this in this module, today's task is to find the time taken to solve a puzzle. So first, this solve all method, like for this solve all method, the inputs are grids, like the input we give a name, it's a character, and show if it's a like it is used to check a time. So 0, 0.0, as here it is shown, if show if is a number of seconds, display puzzles that take longer. Like if show if is a number, then display the puzzles. If show if is not, then don't display any puzzles. So inside of solve all method, we have a time solve of grid. So in this, like we are taking a start variable, time dot clock method is that it gives you the current time right now, like you are executing. So it takes the start value as the time, like when we executed the current time it takes in the start variable, and values is equals to solve of grid. So again we can, like we have the previous solve function, so it just gives you the values, so like the digits, so the values variable is put, like those digits are put into this value. So we are taking t variable, t equals to time dot clock minus start, like t equals to time dot clock is that particular time minus start is that before we calculated the current time at that, like when that start is executed. So if we are taking the difference of those two. So after that we are checking, like like the time, we are checking the time and we are displaying. So if show if is not none and t greater than show if, that is if show if is not none, so if it is 0 1, or and t greater than show if, that is the difference of time dot clock current minus start time is greater than show if. Here show if is 0, 0.0, if t is greater than 0, 0.0, then we are displaying all the values, all the grids, sorry, all the puzzles. So grid values of grid. So if value, like if you have values, then display all the values. So print 12 seconds, like we are printing the t value. And if this if statement is not satisfied, again return t comma solved of value. So what we are returning is the time and solved of values. So in this in the solve all method, we have this time solve, and we have so this is the method, so we are calling this method here. So times comma results, we are taking two variables, equals to zip of time solve of grid from grid in grids. So here, like we are taking grids, so each grid we are iterating it, and we are calling this time solve of grid. So then we are like we are zipping is like mapping for each time at this time what are the puzzles solved. So we are mapping the time and the results of through zip function, and we are taking the length of the grids in n variable. So if n is greater than 1, like we have two or three grids, then we are printing this. So for each one, like n sum of results to all. So this is the solved values. This solved, we are setting the, like in this the solved method, we have one more method, unit solved, like we are sending the units. So what we are doing is we are sending the units, so we are iterating through the units, and we are iterating through the units, and we are getting the values of that particular key, like unit is a key. So we are getting the values of that key. So we are taking a set method so that the values will be uh, unique. So if set of values of s double equals to set of digits is from 1 to 9. So the values is that what, like for a particular square what we have got the values. So if they are equal, then will be returning true, else return values we are returning. That's it. Else if they are equal, then we are returning true, else false. So again after that we are returning values for, like we are iterating through unit in unit list. If for unit in, so we are checking unit in unit list, and the unit solved of values of unit. If it is not false, then we are returning values, else we are returning values. So this from file is that we are parsing the input into a strings, and we are separated, like we are here it is written parse a file into a list of strings separated by separate dot. So in that way we are separating the value, and we are display, like we are here we are assigning the like the time required to solve, and we are printing. So that's the code.